That first conversation is going to decide the tenor of your relationship going forward. And what happens in the sales process? What inspired you to reach out to me? Help me understand what it is that you're looking for. What are the problems that are causing you to lose sleep at night? Hello and welcome back. Let's talk about the sales process today. Let's talk about what happens and why someone might ghost you in the sales process, or why they might fail to show up for a follow-up meeting or cancel at the last minute. These are questions that happen all the time, and people often don't understand what's in play. So I'd like to discuss that a little bit today. My name is Michèle Soregaroli. I'm the co-founder of Transformation Catalyst. I'm a master certified coach, and I specialize in working with professional advisors in support of creating more value, being even more masterful at what you do, and also creating a more rewarding business. So here's what I want to talk about today. When you are in a sales process, let's say that a lead comes in, let's say someone wants to and is showing curiosity about potentially engaging you for your advice and the services that you provide. You might be a financial advisor, you might be in law, you might be in accounting, you might be in consulting, but regardless, someone is looking to work with you in exchange for your advice. And what happens in the sales process? So usually what happens in that very first meeting is they've probably come to you either through referral. In the best of worlds, they come to you through referral, and otherwise they've come to you through what we might call a cold lead, and they've landed in your inbox, and now you're in a conversation with them. That first conversation is going to dictate what happens next. That first conversation is going to decide the tenor of your relationship going forward. It's going to establish some of the parameters and perhaps even the values that you will be expressing going forward. So we want to be highly cognizant of what happens in that first conversation. Now, what would be an indicator that that conversation went well is when someone shows up for the second conversation, when they are receptive to a second conversation where they are likely to move forward with respect to engaging you, or at least move closer to an engagement. The first conversation is going to be the clues that that conversation went well will show up in the second conversation. And if you are, for whatever reason, bumping up against challenges to have that second conversation, there's probably something going wrong or something that's not happening in that first introductory conversation. So let's talk about that first introductory conversation and see if we can decode what might be happening there in support of making sure that that second conversation happens. In the first chance that you get to meet someone, here's what I experience so many times with clients. They tell me, well, the client, the potential lead or the prospect, if you will, comes into that conversation and wants to hear all about what you do and what your business is and how you do your work and what your value proposition is. And of course, as a provider, you're very eager to satisfy their questions. You want them to deeply understand, and you want to help them decide whether or not, or to help them understand that the value you deliver is really solid and worth the engagement, worth their investment in your services, right? So what happens is we start right out of the gates telling them about ourselves. So when you get into that first conversation, here's what I want to invite you to notice. Who is giving information first? Who's asking the questions, and who's giving information first? That is the first indicator of whether or not you're on the right track. That very first conversation is when you establish an agenda that says something like, I'm here to listen to you. I want to understand your problem. I want to understand the issues you are trying to solve so that I can help to see whether or not my advice and my expertise and my experience is even well aligned with your needs. So when that first prospect comes into the meeting, maybe ask questions about what inspired you to reach out to me, or tell me a little bit about your situation. Help me understand what it is that you're looking for. Have you had this kind of experience before? Have you worked, and what didn't? And what you're trying to do in that first conversation, the very first thing you're trying to do is establish that you are listening from the perspective of wanting to help them. You want to very clearly understand the challenge or the problem that they're trying to solve. You want to very clearly understand the solution that they envision and why that's important. And you want to make sure that you're on the same page philosophically, so that your service is a good match and your style is a good match for what they want, right? So that's probably the first 30 or 40 minutes of the conversation. You want to know what their existing circumstances are, what are the things that have been in play for them, maybe a little bit about their backstory. And then you want to get to understand, what is it that you're challenged with? What are you trying to solve for? What are the problems that are causing you to lose sleep at night, or causing you angst, or causing you to even be curious about the services that I might provide for you, right? And then the third part of the conversation in this 3-part sales conversation would be discussing and getting a better understanding from your lead or your prospect, understanding what's important to them. What does success look like in your work together with them, or in their future vision of where they want to go, right? Where do they want to be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? How big is their ambition? How fast do they want to get there? What does it look like? How does it feel? And get a really good idea of what the better future is. So part 1 is understanding their past and their current circumstances. What's their story and how did they end up here? Part 2 is understanding the challenges that they're facing right now that they're trying to solve for. And why are those important? Why do they matter? What significance do they have? And part 3 is getting into what success looks like. And that could be success in your engagement with them. What are they trying to get by hiring you? Or it could be success in terms of a long-term vision. Where are they trying to get to? The 3-year, 5-year, 10-year vision. How ambitious are they? And what pace of change are they looking for? What is their sense of urgency? Why is it important right now as opposed to next year? That vision of success is a critical component. From there, you've got your 3-part conversation, and they've been doing all the talking up to this point. At that point, you are now much, much better equipped to be able to discuss your services in the context of the problems that they have and the conditions in which they find themselves and where they want to go. So I'm going to leave you with that for now. If this has been valuable for you, I invite you to subscribe for more. In another conversation, we're going to talk about how you set up that conversation about your discussion of your services and whether or not they're suitable for what your prospect or lead is looking for. We'll talk about that kind of thing. We'll also talk about pricing strategies and packaging and that kind of thing at a future time. But in the meantime, if you liked what you heard today, please do subscribe. Join us on YouTube here, and I'll look forward to seeing you the next time. Thanks for being with us today. Bye for now.